So in case you haven't seen, it's a tad wet at Imola at the minute. I know that the teams are already over there and they want to get prepared for the Grand Prix this weekend, but for this one they're not going to have to be as prepared as a Formula 1 team usually would. This time they need to be about as prepared as Noah, San Marino Grand Prix, and so on. It's the sort of weather a bullseye winner from the 80s will have been waiting for, so that they can finally get to use that speedboat they won. But I should actually point out that we are expecting an update on what's actually going to happen this weekend at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, so 1 o'clock British time on Wednesday the 17th of May. So by the time this video goes out, there should be more information available, but I thought I'd give some opinions and recap anyway. Hi, it's Editing Aiden here. Those decided to cancel it while I was halfway through editing this video. So, yeah. Oh well. This is now a video on why it's a good thing they cancelled it. The region that the Imola circuit is situated in has been rained on quite heavily in the last couple of days, to the point where authorities in the emilia-romagna region have been evacuating people from their homes, and there were phone pictures snapped in the local area showing cars submerged in about 3 feet of water. Rain is expected to keep up through today and then sort of ease off tomorrow, but it's about what will happen over the coming days because we're only about 48 hours from on-track running. Tomorrow is when the engineering briefs and media things start, with the on-track running taking place on Friday. But it should be said that the rain expected over Friday, Saturday and Sunday is going to be nowhere near as intense as it has already been. Any personnel that were at the circuit yesterday were forced to leave at about 4 PM. 4 PM Imola time, that is. While the initial weather forecast shows a let-up in the rain tomorrow, it is expected to then rain on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. But with so much water already on the ground, there's the question of how much of it they can shift before then. If they can shift it. Next to the circuit is the Santerno River, which as a result of the intense rain has had its levels rise to concerning levels, and several facilities at the circuit have become flooded. The actual paddock, however, seems to be okay, but there's still the long-term effects. The rain might not be as heavy, or it might end completely, but that doesn't leave Formula 1 off the hook at all. The flooded areas could be like they are for a week, maybe more, until the water has somewhere to go. Then there's got to be the huge cleanup operation. There's also no guarantee that the track has been damaged and other things like that. And for Formula 1, it must be a difficult situation to be in. A lot of money has been spent putting on this event. Imola will have paid hosting fees, sponsors putting their money in, fans putting their money in at a time when the economy isn't exactly great, and the teams will have spent money on shipping everyone and everything out. So there's going to be the rigmarole of going through the whole process of compensation, refunds, and all that stuff. The teams already have people there on the chance it does go ahead, and Formula 1 is actually saying that they're not concerned about any cancellations. They can make changes to the running order of the day and what day they run certain sessions. In the past, Formula 1 has run qualifying on the morning of the race if it absolutely has to. The 2004 Japanese Grand Prix is one such example, and it happened again in Japan in 2010. The other 2 times it's happened were in Australia in 2013 and the United States in 2015, which, if you might remember, that was when the Saturday was a total washout and the team started playing football in the pit lane and having origami boat races to pass the time. But then there's the case of what happens if the rain is at a point where it becomes impossible to race due to spray and aquaplaning. Like I've said before, while it looks fine from the TV cameras at the side of the track, the spray is going to make life very difficult for the drivers, with aquaplaning on top of that as well. I'm sure nobody wants a repeat of Spa 2021 when it was do 2 laps, sit around doing nothing for 3 hours and then going, well, we had a race by the letter of the rulebook, so here's half the points that you would normally receive. So I guess the big question here is more of a should F1 run this race rather than it being a case of can F1 run this race. Now in my lifetime I've never seen a race get cancelled due to the weather. There is of course the Australian Grand Prix of 2020, which was at the start of the confusion of the pandemic when we didn't know how deadly or not deadly this new virus was, and the only other race I've seen cancelled was the Bahrain Grand Prix of 2010, I think it was 2010, when they didn't race out of fear of people's safety during what became known as the Arab Spring. With damage to people's houses, the infrastructure, the risks of landslides and the general difficulty Formula 1 is going to have in getting people through the gates to watch the Grand Prix, is it even worth doing it? Is it a case of just playing it safe and saying, look, you know what, the area we're going to has been hit hard by adverse weather, People have been evacuated from homes, schools are shut, we're next to a river that's on the edge of bursting its banks. Let's just cop the financial losses on the chin and wait for Monaco next week. The Italian Deputy Prime Minister has called on Formula 1 to not go ahead with the race, and it won't be a simple case of just clearing water to allow it to do so. As we saw during the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, the drainage systems will only take so much, and Laguna Seca just this week has unveiled its latest modifications to the circuit. Mud from the gravel traps was washing onto the track during the winter months, when the weather in that part of California is a bit wetter than it normally would be. In their own words, shoveling mudslides off the track at 4 AM wasn't their idea of fun. So with Imola, like Laguna Seca, having a lot of elevation change, that water has to run somewhere, and if it drags stuff into the drainage systems and blocks those drainage systems, something that already has those limits reduced. I mean, probably I'm not a civil engineer or whatever would work on this sort of stuff. It's also not a case of just moving it to later in the year or anything like that. The calendar is chocker as it is to start with, and the contracts are probably super complex and super opaque at the same time. The way things are adding up, there's probably only one decision that can be made here. But let's keep going. And I have actually seen some of the photos of the area away from the track on Twitter, and there was one posted about an hour ago at the time of writing where it shows the area behind the pit lane entry looking like a really murky swimming pool. 5 Formula 1 and Pirelli branded 42-ton lorries have been submerged in water that comes almost above the height of the wheels, and there's also some sort of tent there as well, you know, like a Grand Tour type of thing where it's probably filled with water as well. It's not a good look, to be honest. No other sporting event would be going ahead if it looked like this, and it should be mentioned, as I've not mentioned it yet, that if the volunteer marshals can't get to the circuit due to the roads being underwater or other infrastructure damage, then the race shouldn't be going ahead for that alone, along with everything else. And I should add to this as well that 2 people have actually died in the floods, and employees at AlphaTauri, whose headquarters is in Faenza, in Emilia-Romagna, they've been affected too. Racing in an area hit by a natural disaster and doing it while saying thoughts and prayers probably isn't the way to go. Maybe it's just best to look ahead towards Monaco instead. The schedule is congested as it is already. A little lift for the crews might do them some good. But at the same time, those cars could be under 4 feet of water and people on Twitter will still be atting the FIA and saying let them race. But anyway, a quick video with some thoughts and things like that on what is happening over at Imola and the uncertainty around the Grand Prix. If you have any opinions of your own, leave them in the designated comment submission zone and get a discussion going. And while scrolling down, if you think I've made some good points, like the video, and for more like this, get subscribed with the Stefan bell on so you never miss out. Big up to the Patreon Massive for the support, and if you want to help out with things around here, there's a link in the description to Patreon, along with links to Discord, socials, F1 Store affiliate, and other bits and bobs as well. Well, there's super thanks if you just want to do a one-off tip and top up my coffee cup. So until next time, I've been Millward. Have a great day wherever you are, and goodbye.